The Machine Against You: How Propaganda Became Your Daily Feed. From Napoleonic fanfare to a modern military machine. As Dan Carlin points out in his podcast Hardcore History, at the dawn of World War I, French soldiers marched into battle clad in uniforms that would have looked familiar to Napoleon's Grande Armée. Their bright red trousers and blue coats, a legacy of 19th-century military pageantry, made them tragically easy targets for the devastating new artillery and machine guns of the era. By the war's end, however, the French army was almost unrecognizable. This was now a modern army, armed with automatic rifles, grenades, and supported by emergent technologies like tanks and combat aircraft. A stark visual representation of the rapid technological evolution forced by the brutal realities of modern warfare. This transformation marked the true beginning of the modern era, a period where the tools of war would evolve at a new pace. This relentless drive for deadlier technology didn't stop in 1918. It spiraled through World War II, culminating in the horrific spectacle of the atomic bomb. Today, we live in an age of cyber warfare, autonomous drones, and weapon systems of almost unimaginable power. Yet alongside this arsenal of physical destruction, another weapon, equally potent and far more insidious, has been honed to a razor's edge: propaganda. The evolving arsenal, from posters to psychoanalysis. Just as the physical weapons of war were evolving, a new science of the mind was forging an arsenal of psychological warfare. The timeline is staggering. In the mere 21 years that separated the end of World War I from the beginning of World War II, armies went from using horse-drawn artillery to executing the mechanized blitzkrieg, a journey that culminated in the splitting of the atom. In that same period, propaganda underwent an equally dramatic transformation. It evolved from posters that crudely demonized the enemy, branding Germans as barbaric Huns to sell war bonds, into the sophisticated, all-encompassing machine of Nazi Germany. For a young Adolf Hitler, the effectiveness of Allied World War I propaganda was a core lesson. He believed its psychological power was a primary reason for Germany's defeat. His conviction fueled the Nazi Party's obsession with propaganda as a central tool of war. Under Joseph Goebbels, it became a totalizing system that used the new technologies of radio and film not just to disseminate information, but to craft an inescapable reality and control the very soul of a nation. The evolution since World War II has been even more breathtaking. The atomic bomb has morphed into hypersonic missiles and stealth technology. In parallel, propaganda has moved from radio broadcasts to the psychological battleground of the 21st century, a story best told through the work of one man who saw the future of persuasion. Freud, Bernays, and the Century of the Self. This new form of warfare found its architect not in a general, but in Sigmund Freud's nephew, Edward Bernays. As the documentary The Century of the Self brilliantly details, Bernays understood that the irrational, unconscious forces his uncle wrote about could be harnessed. He could engineer consent and manipulate the masses without their knowledge. A quintessential example was his Torches of Freedom campaign. In the 1920s, the American Tobacco Company faced a problem. It was socially taboo for women to smoke in public, cutting their market in half. Bernays, hired to solve this, consulted a psychoanalyst who equated cigarettes with male power. The solution? Rebrand cigarettes as a symbol of female emancipation. He orchestrated a masterstroke during the 1929 Easter Parade in New York City, hiring fashionable women to march while lighting up what he had already branded to the press as torches of freedom. By expertly tying smoking to the powerful narrative of women's suffrage, the cigarette was transformed from a taboo into a declaration of independence. Sales to women skyrocketed. This campaign reveals a chilling truth. Even if people were told they were being deliberately manipulated, the emotional power of the narrative, female liberation, was often too strong to overcome. The machine you live in. Your mind is the new front line. Today, the marriage of propaganda and technology has created a weapon of unprecedented power. To answer a question, is this the work of state sponsorship or a big business, big government coupling? The reality is that it's both, and they've merged into something new. It's less a single shadowy puppet master and more a powerful symbiosis. While state-sponsored propaganda exists, from Russia's troll farms spreading disinformation to China's Chinese Dream campaign, the more pervasive force in daily life is a machine fueled by a feedback loop between corporate and political interests. This machine isn't necessarily ideological. Its primary goal is engagement. Corporations need your attention to sell you products and data. Political actors need your attention to win your vote and support. The most effective way to get that attention is to provoke a strong emotional response, and the algorithms that run our social media feeds have learned that lesson all too well. Consider the modern arsenal, the outrage for profit engine. This is the machine's primary weapon, and it targets the modern cynic perfectly. Social media algorithms have figured out that nothing keeps you glued to the screen like anger. They create filter bubbles and echo chambers not just to show you what you agree with, but to show you content that will make you furious at the other side. It feels like you're staying informed and fighting the good fight, but you're actually being fed a carefully curated diet of rage because your anger generates clicks, shares, and ad revenue. The system you believe is rigged is profiting from your certainty that it's rigged. The micro-targeted nudges for the believer. This same machine targets the person who trusts the system, just with a different tactic. Think of public health campaigns or get-out-the-vote drives. Using vast amounts of data, these campaigns tailor messages with pinpoint accuracy. A campaign to encourage vaccinations might show a young person an ad about protecting their grandparents, while showing a parent an ad about keeping their kids safe in school. These aren't lies, but they are forms of emotional manipulation designed to nudge behavior. It shows that the techniques are value neutral. They are used by authorities and institutions you trust just as skillfully as they are used by those you don't. The Great Divider. The ultimate effect of this machine is that it sorts everyone into different, emotionally charged realities. The cynic's feed confirms the world is corrupt and broken. The believer's feed confirms the world is orderly and authorities are trustworthy. Both are being manipulated by the same commercial and political interests, yet the process drives them further apart, making conversation and consensus nearly impossible. The unchanging human and the ever-evolving machine. The sobering reality is that while our technology has evolved at an exponential rate, our fundamental human psychology has remained largely unchanged for millennia. We are still susceptible to the same cognitive biases and emotional triggers that made our ancestors vulnerable. We seek out information that confirms our beliefs. We are swayed by emotional appeals, and we are prone to groupthink. We often look back at people who fell under the spell of past propaganda with a sense of superiority, confident that we are too sophisticated to be so easily manipulated. But are we? We are bombarded daily with messages crafted by algorithms and public relations experts, all designed to influence our thoughts, our purchases, and our votes. We are in many ways just as vulnerable, and perhaps even more so, given the sheer volume and personalization of the propaganda we face. Knowledge as a shield. Does understanding this machine help inoculate us against it? The answer is a qualified yes. By becoming aware of these techniques, we can start to recognize them. We can develop a more critical eye for the information we consume, questioning the source, considering the motive, and seeking out diverse perspectives. However, knowledge alone isn't a perfect shield. In a world saturated with information, the most important defense is a commitment to asking why you're seeing something. The goal isn't to become a cynic who trusts nothing. The goal is to reclaim your own mind. It starts with a simple question when you feel that jolt of outrage or that surge of validation from something you see online. Who benefits from me feeling this way right now? The answer is the first step to disarming the machine.